Setting up this weekend's action here in the NBA playoffs right here on the early line, Sirius XM channel 159. Joe Ranieri, Donnie right side. Fun all the way around, intrigue all the way through. We had some fun just talking about the Pacers and the Bucks. How about this series? The New York Knicks as the 2 seed, who all season long we're like, okay, maybe we'll be the 5th, maybe we'll be the 6th, maybe we'll drop out with so many injuries. Jalen Brunson has been absolutely spectacular this entire season. So now the number 2 seeded Knicks are going to take on the Philadelphia 76ers as the 7th seed. How did the Sixers get to the 7th seed? Well, they had the play-in series tournament here against the Miami Heat. Beat them, advance. The Heat will play a little bit later tonight, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But let's focus on this series here and how we got there. Before we get into the lines itself, Joe, I was so impressed by Tibbs' team down the stretch because you saw other teams get injured. A la the Philadelphia 76ers. Lost Maxey for a couple games, but lost Joel Embiid for the better parts of a month. They were treading water. They weren't doing anything. They were dropping seed lines here. If the Sixers were healthy, they would have probably been the 2 seed. The Knicks weren't healthy, but they did get the 2 seed. I love that for the New York Knicks, man. That is a resilient team.
Very resilient. And, don't forget when the look-aheads and when this first came out, Donnie, right, there was a lot of people screaming and yelling going, why are the Knicks a dog in this series? Like, what is going on? And then, sure enough, the line has flipped, and now the Knicks are finally getting, and they deserve this kind of respect as well here. Throw the seeds out. Doesn't make a difference here. The Knicks all year long, to your point, we're one of the better defensive teams, right? Thibs' teams are always known for their defense. They finished 10th in defensive efficiency this year. But the thing that nobody talks about with the Knicks because of that image with Thibs is that this was a very, very good offensive team here. Why? Because of Jalen Brunson. That's why. And he is ultimately going to be the guy, I think, here that decides whether or not they win this series and they can advance here. This is a team defensively that is going to give Philadelphia all sorts of issues. And Embiid is a one-man wrecking machine. But do we think he's good enough to run over this New York Knicks team? I don't think so. I think the right team is favored. We saw a ton of steam come in yesterday. A lot of money on the New York Knicks series came in yesterday, pushing this thing closer to the New York Knicks here at minus money. But the reality is Philadelphia certainly has an elite lineup, but do they have enough? And are you convinced that Embiid's 100%? Because I'm not. There could be an argument made. Jimmy Butler doesn't get hurt. They're playing the Bulls here tonight, and they are not set up to play the Knicks here. So I agree with the market move. The Knicks should be the favorite. They should be the ones that win this series.
Yeah, and as a Sixer fan watching that Miami Heat game halfway through the first half, oh, look at that. The Heat are on the way to the NBA Finals, and the Sixers are going to get bounced in round number 1 to the Boston Celtics. Boy, things changed in that second half. But that leads up to the Sixers, who technically are the hottest team in the NBA with a win streak heading in from the regular season right through to the play-in tournament and now going to face the New York Knicks. If we're lining up this series, and again, as Joe pointed out, it's the 2-seed Knicks, the 7-seeded Sixers. It's supposed to be a heavy favorite for the 2 seed, but as we're seeing right now, the money line price on the series, the New York Knicks, minus 110. Philadelphia 76ers, minus 110. Spread in the series, the Sixers, minus 1.5 games at plus 142. If you want to take the Knicks getting a game and a half, that's minus 176. And talking about when do you think this series will end? In 4 games, plus 490. In 5 games, plus 240. The favorite here, plus 190 in 6 games. And then 7 games at a plus 220 price. So we're not going to hear like, oh, the Sixers win. What a massive upset it actually is. But Joe brings up some good points here. Yes, Embiid is back and the Sixers are playing well, but still it's always a problem. Joel Embiid gets injured out of nowhere typically in the playoffs, whether it be his stomach hurts, his knee flares up, or even getting his face fractured late in the game where he probably shouldn't even have been in the game. You're hoping that Joel Embiid's injury history, which cost him about a month and a half of the season and an MVP race with that knee injury, whereas that bulky brace, we'll find out where it comes back. But if we look at the comparison between the two teams, the Knicks 50-32 on the season, the Sixers 47-35. Now, quite frankly, both of those records aren't as good probably of what those teams could have actually been, Joe. If you said the Knicks didn't lose Julius Randle for the rest of the way or OG Anunoby for like 2 months at a time, the Philadelphia 76ers don't lose Joel Embiid, you might be looking at the number 2 and the number 3 seed with much, much better records here. So how these teams match up, the Knicks got the better of the Philadelphia 76ers in the regular season. If you just look at that alone, Is it advantage Knicks knowing that, yes, Embiid in, Embiid out, we still handled our business, and looking forward, we should be fine in this round?
Well, and I think the other part of it, again, defensively, both of these teams can go get you, right? They can make life extremely miserable for you. But ultimately, I do think that it's the Knicks and their three-point shooters that are going to be, over the course of a series, maybe the difference maker, right? So when you're looking at McBride, DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, they're all 40% three-point shooters. Even Anunoby shot, 39.5% from three. Who would have saw that coming here? The Knicks' ability to shoot the three will open up other things for him. It has all year, and Jalen Brunson is the perfect kind of player to be able to take advantage of Embiid, who may not be 100% because of his mid-range game. He can absolutely make things happen here. But Philadelphia is elite when Embiid is on the court, and they may very well be good enough when he's off the court here, Donnie, because it's not like Maxey and Tobias Harris and Melton. It's not like these guys have not been great all year, too. I think it's going to be a fantastic series, and it's one that, would you be shocked if it went 7? Because it wouldn't shock me.
No, it'd be great basketball. These two teams haven't played in a long time in the playoffs. It's a great rivalry here. The Garden deserves great basketball, and they're going to get it. The same thing in Philadelphia. You're going to have rival fans in rival buildings here. You know how that's going to get, and right off the bat, we love to see it. If we are looking at those 4 games that the Sixers and the Knicks played this year, only one of those games, Joe, where Joel Embiid actually played in, and the Knicks won easily, 128-92. And if you also remember that March 10th game, 79-73, as it was a high school basketball game. Nobody could score, but the Sixers won. 2 days later, same building, the Knicks returned the favor with a 106-79 game. Now, granted, a lot of things are changing. Players are coming back healthy, and so be it, which includes Joel Embiid, who did miss roughly a month and a half. Thought process may have been he might not even come back, but comes back a few games short of the playoffs. And he's been great coming back, though. 6 games played here, Joe, 29.2 points per game, 10 rebounds, field goal percentage 47.5. And you know, JoJo likes to get to the free throw line. So Embiid moving forward, let me ask you this question like we did with Giannis. Embiid's supposed to be there for all 7 games if needed here. Is there a chance that we see Joel Embiid game 1 or game 2 like we've seen in the past? Hobbling up the court, and then we get those, which the NBA loves. Game 3, everybody's playing. Oh, wait a second. News breaking, Woj bomb. Joel Embiid's going to miss game 3 of the NBA playoffs against the Knicks.
Well, listen, the Sixers, yes, they love to have Embiid here, but they certainly stayed afloat without him in order to be able to put themselves in this spot, right? I mean, defensively, they are very, very good with the guys they have. Sans Embiid. Embiid's biggest contribution is offensively, right? Because if Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson have no answer for Embiid, Philadelphia wins this series. I mean, that's really what this is going to come down to. It's not Embiid's defense that they're going to miss. It's going to be the fact that nobody can really stop Embiid when he wants to score. They have 2 guys that are going to be tasked with stopping him. If they don't, Embiid's on the court, Philadelphia could very well win this game. Without him, well, then you've got a different group of guys for the Knicks that are going to be responsible for taking them over this hump. And it's not Hartenstein or Robinson. It's going to have to be the guys like Maxey and Tobias Harris and Batum. These guys are going to have to play out of their mind. But you know what? They did for most of the season. So on or off the court, it's still a 7-game series to me.
Nick Batum, 6 3-point shots made already in this play, or early in the playoffs here with that play-in tournament. We'll see if he can knock down some 3-point shots. Maybe the New York Knicks go zone. Tibbs, known for his defensive strategies nonetheless. But let's take a look at game number 1, which will take place tomorrow, 6 p.m. up in the Garden, the world's most famous arena, Sixers and the Knicks. This line opened up at the FanDuel Sportsbook at -3. You know where it sits today? Live, -3 here. A couple movements here from 2.5 to 3s, as you'll find out. Total in this game opened up 206.5. The live line today at 209. So taking a look at the Philadelphia 76ers as underdogs in game number 1, how do we think this plays out? Because the one thing we do know, Madison Square Garden is going to be rocking here. We're looking for a close series, probably going 6 to 7 games, and it's so key, particularly for the road team, to steal one of those first 2 games in the opponent's building. My question to you here, Joe, can the New York Knicks win both games at home, or do the Sixers possibly get game number 1 and put that home court advantage in their back pocket?
No, I think home court advantage is huge. Well, it's always huge in the NBA playoffs, but I think it's really big for the Knicks in this series here. I do think that this is going to be who flinches first, right? Whoever wins a game on the road, I think, is most likely the winner of this series. And don't forget how good. I mean, the Knicks were great, right? But the Knicks were not only the number 2 seed here, but they were also the 6th best cover team in the league this year here, Donnie. They went 44, 36, and 2 against the number, over 55%. This is a team that, especially at home, as a favorite, handled their business here. I think they will. I think this game will be decided, like most games should be, in Game 5. That's going to be the situation for me. I do think up until that point, everybody holds serve until they make the second go at it. And I think Game 5 will determine who wins this.
Because it's, as it turns out here, and it was certainly rightfully so, nobody wanted to face the Boston Celtics. And again, the New York Knicks are a very good and quality squad here. Nobody's doubting that. But it almost felt like, oh boy, the Knicks are waiting in the 2 seed. They probably should have lost to the Bulls in the final game of the season to try to avoid this, because you were going to get the Jimmy Butler Miami Heat, which it turns out Jimmy Butler's probably not going to play for the rest of the playoffs here, and or the Philadelphia 76ers with a healthy Joel Embiid. If we take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook, you see where the money is going here. 53% of the tickets actually coming in on the New York Knicks. But how about this? 72% of the total money also coming in on the New York Knicks. So slightly as a public favorite here, but an overwhelming amount of money on the Knicks, which is interesting and key, because we were led to believe that, oh, look at this. The Sixers is the 2 seed, or as the 7 seed. They're really the 2 seed playing in this spot. They should win this series, but that's not where the general public's going with their betting and also their funds here.
No, they are not. And we saw a lot of that come in yesterday, and I do think that we'll see more of it here. If the Knicks win this first game, it's going to move quickly towards the other side. And like you said, I think a lot of bettors are sitting and going, is Embiid really 100%? And I want to see him go against a defensive team like this on the road at the Garden. Let me see Game 1 before I jump in. I think there's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines because of Embiid, and if somehow they're able to pull this one out, oh boy, that's going to make this series very interesting.
Quadruple header on Saturday. Game started at 1 o'clock here. The game we were just talking about here and the series, the Sixers and the Knicks. That game is going to tip off at 6 p.m. in the Garden. 2 concepts also coming in, which sometimes come into play. The Knicks haven't played for a week. Last time we saw them in an overtime victory against the Chicago Bulls to clinch that number 2 seed. But also from a Sixers perspective, which I like to look at in the NCAA tournament, maybe a slingshot effect here where they are already in playoff mode here with a playoff victory, and now we're showing up into the Garden saying, our playoff mindset is already here. Let's see what you got. But the Garden, as I said, will absolutely be rocking. Cannot wait for this game to tip off.